Hi guys, how's it going? My name is Julio. Welcome to the 10 Years Podcast. The 10 Years Podcast is my project to try to document every single week of my life and document my journey as an artist and human being for the next 10 years. Today, in this episode, I want to share my memories when I met artist, musician, and poet Shane MacGowan. For those of you that don't know who Shane MacGowan is, he was a core part of the Pogues, and he wrote some of the best known songs, not only Celtic punk, but also holiday songs like Fairytale of New York, and he was a vital part of the music scene of many countries. I can name the fact that Johnny Depp still is a massive supporter, but also that Shane crossed paths with so many super talented musicians and artists like Sinead O'Connor. The first time that I met Shane was in 2008, and I was fresh from my recent travel to New York. I arrived in Dublin and I didn't really know anybody. And I remember that in 2007 I played several gigs with drummer Johnny Craig, which originally was a band member of Space Hog. And Johnny put me in touch with the Cronin brothers, Johnny and Mick Cronin, which at the time they were playing under the name The Aftermath. Johnny and Mick had a studio, and I believe they still do, in Longford, in Ireland, part of the Transmission Records label. And when I was there, I went to meet the Cronins, and I met Shane, which I didn't even know who he was at the time. The only thing that I know about Shane was Fairytale of New York, because it was a classic tune played all over New York every single Christmas time. And yeah, I was in a certain way surprised that a true punk like Shane could have wrote something that it was associated to holidays, to something like, as pure and sometimes, polite and a little bit middle class as celebrating Christmas at Macy's, for example, and going for shopping. But I saw him, I immediately felt that he was definitely unique. He was watching on TV the old Whistle Test, which is this really, 70s, I wouldn't say super ancient, but, it's this show which I love, where people like David Bowie, Bryan, Ferry, Roxy Music, there's so many great musicians, so many great bands play that show in UK. I believe it was running until the end of the 70s. Shane was sitting in a chair, and he was having his drinks, and just couldn't, care less, about who was around him. And he had 4 or 5 friends from Dublin that they were following him around. One of them was called Johnny, I remember, and he used to own a tattoo shop right close to O'Connell Street in Dublin. And we talked about music, and he was in Longford to play a gig, and one of the original members of the Nipples Actors, the Nips, was there, the guitar player. He had this really cool Gibson Les Paul. We talked about music, went to the gig with him, had several laughs, and I remember that somehow I couldn't picture how a true punk like him, because he had the same vibe that you could have got from hanging around with like Johnny Rotten, for example, like a true I don't care type of vibe. And at the same time, he had this side, this very shy side, and this unique feeling that I felt only a few times in my life next to specifically certain artists. I can literally put the names on one hand, so it's that rare, that they seem to have this spiritual connection. And for Shane was the flow. It was the way he was singing, the way he was putting whatever he was channeling into words, because Shane was not a typical singer-songwriter, and he was truly channeling from somewhere which I can't describe with words, But if you've been to a Pogues gig, or if you saw Shane performing live, at whatever stage of his life, because it wasn't really about the technicality or the type of performance, but it was about that moment where he grabs a microphone or he starts to sing, and you can literally feel that is almost a spiritual experience, you know? The second time that I met Shane was when I went for dinner at his house, and his lovely wife, Victoria, she is into spirituality and in angels and channeling from different dimensional levels. And at the time, I was working on a brain machine. I was working on a brain-computer interface, which was allowing to use your frontal lobes, brain waves, to control images and sounds. And I don't know how, but I think I met Victoria in a hotel in the center of Dublin city on Exchequer Street, and we started to talk about it, and I say, okay, come for dinner at our house and we're gonna have a chat. And Shane was there, and he was by the time he was completely sober, and he was just going through a phase of trying to get as healthy as possible. He was still watching DVDs of the old whistle test, and I remember it was very interesting. It was very cool because Victoria and Shane, to me, they were extremely different, but at the same time, a perfect match. It was one of these unique situations where you can almost feel that there was a connection in a previous life, which to me is magical. It's truly magical. So that was another memory that I'll always keep dear to me, because I managed somehow to see a more intimate side of Shane, so completely off stage. The last time that I saw Shane was at the Grand Social, and I believe it was right out of COVID. So it was probably it could have been 2023. It could be the year when I'm recording this episode. I can't remember properly, but I remember it was a gig of Mick and Johnny under their new name, which is the Cronins, and they were playing at the Grand Social. And Shane was on a wheelchair, and I remember that I was having a chat with Kieran Black, which now is managing the Grand Social, and I worked with Kieran for a decade at the time of the King Kong Club, at the time of the Sunday Roast. Kieran used to run a really, really good open mic in Dublin, giving voice to so many emerging acts. I saw so many bands at the King Kong Club every single week. And Kieran was like, I need a hand to bring Shane upstairs. And myself and Kieran and the two guys were carrying Shane up the stairs at the Grand Social to go to the main stage on the first floor where the Cronins were playing. And at the time, we didn't really have a verbal exchange. We were just talking and just say like, hey, you're cool, are you doing good, etc. And one thing that I kind of always been against to is when I see somebody that is, popular, like Shane is extremely popular, he's a legend in Ireland, and seeing a lot of people saying, oh, I want to take a photo with you, I want an autograph, I want this, I want that. So for that reason, I already decided when I went for dinner at his place to don't take pictures with Shane, and just to keep the memories in my head. And I felt sometimes when you are with an artist that has a particular energy, taking photos, it's a little bit like stealing some of the energy or capturing the energy on the camera. Even we all use digital cameras. But it's something that, I heard from people that played with Bowie or with Prince. Prince didn't like to have, like selfies or having people following him around and documenting everything, on video. It was very private. So in that case, that was the last time that I saw Shane, and I knew that, it was coming close to an end. But it was just a feeling. But Shane, to me, is missing basically. I mean, his death is like missing a piece of history, you know, and not just musical. It's one of those icons that really captured and channeled the history and the feelings and the emotions of so many people in the music, but he's been also some sort of a medium. And here comes back this feeling of him being a channeling from somewhere. So I don't know if Shane will reincarnate, and I don't know if the Bardo phase, where allegedly souls hang around for 45 days before reincarnate into a human or into another being. But I think that, you know, Shane is somebody that definitely have lived many lives before crossing paths with us in this timeline. So I usually don't feel emotional about artists or, you know, public figures passing. But I remember when Lou Reed died, and he reminded me the time when I completely randomly met him at a book launch in Manhattan in New York, and spoke about meditation. And so I think that when eventually David Lynch, and I hope it will be, you know, in 100 years from now, when David Lynch will pass, I'll probably remember when I met David at the Transcendental Meditation meetups in Manhattan. So those are people that are unique and people that we should treasure and protect, not just when they enter history, but when they are here, present in our lives. Thank you, Shane.